everyone, I'm Carolyn and welcome back to my RV life. Today I am going to talk to you about buying property. I know a lot of RVers, a lot of nomads are buying property, and you've been asking me what my plans are. I think I mentioned that I was kind of thinking about it, and a lot of you are telling me you should buy properties. I'm going to talk to you today about my thoughts about buying property and the future of nomading. I'm going to talk a lot about the future of what I think it looks like for people living on public land. So stay tuned, I've got a lot to come.
There ain't nobody gonna do it for you. Got to find your own.
Come on. Hey friendlies, welcome back. So when I was thinking about shooting today's video, I knew I wanted to do a talky video. I have a million topics I still want to cover, and this one is a question that's been coming up. I debated for a couple of days over the direction I wanted to take in this video. Do I want to just do a straight how-to video, just keeping anything that might be controversial or keeping anything that might be political out of it, or do I just want to be real and talk about reality? Which one do you think I chose? So with that said, this is going to be a little bit of a bullshit session. This is going to be a little bit of like a campfire talk with me. If you were here with me in my camp, sitting around a campfire, this is the type of conversation we would be having. And those of you who've sat around campfires with me, you know that that's true. And so I'm kind of doing a real campfire chat with you today. And I'm going to talk about buying property. And I know that there has been a trend lately for nomads buying property. A lot of people are either getting off the road or buying property to have a safe place to go in light of all the craziness that is going on in the world right now, or the country at least. And I'm going to talk about that today, and I'm going to talk about it in a real, as factual as I can manner about it. And so I also want to do a disclaimer. If you don't want to hear politics, if you don't want to hear history, if you don't want to hear my thoughts and philosophies,
stick to RV living.
I don't come here for politics. Stay in your lane.
Berkeley libtard, shut up, then turn off the video right now. Right here, turn it off. Sadie's gonna knock over the camera. Are they gone? They're not. There are some who are still here. If you are still here, I don't want to hear you complain about it, okay? I don't want to see comments that this isn't what I came here for.
I don't come here for politics.
I gave you the opportunity to shut the video off, so if this isn't what you came for, just keep your comments to yourself. Take personal responsibility for yourself and your actions, and I don't want to hear you complain, okay? A lot of nomads are either getting off the road or buying property for a safe place to go during whatever mayhem is to come. And so I want to share with you today my thoughts on that, but in order to do that, I feel like I need to give you some context to my thinking. So a lot of you who've been with me a while probably already know, I've probably said it before, I studied political economy of industrial societies with an area focus of Russia at Berkeley. So sometimes you hear me say I studied political science, sometimes you hear me say I studied history, sometimes economics. Well, what PEIS is an interdepartmental study, an interdepartmental major, which basically allowed me to choose my area of focus. And if you've been with me a while, you know it totally makes sense with me. It makes sense for me. I got to study a little bit of everything, a little bit of political science, a little bit of economics, a little bit of history, even a little bit of sociology, a little bit of international relations. So I got a little bit of everything, and I got to make my own major, basically, with the help of the department chair. And my focus was Russia and the Cold War. So I studied a lot of Russian history. I studied a lot of World War II, a lot of fascist Germany. So I've got a background in that. It's not an easy major to get into. I transferred to Berkeley from community college, San Francisco City College, and then I had to do a semester at Berkeley, and then I had to apply to the major. I think I had to have like a 3.5 GPA, and I didn't get in the first time. My first semester at Berkeley, I think my GPA might have been like 2.8 or 3, I don't know. I was working still 30 hours a week. I ended up having to not work. So the first time I applied to the major, I did not get in, and I had to reapply, and I got in. And then I had to work with the department to figure out, to make a major. And so it's political economy of industrial societies with an area focus on Russia. So that's the context behind my thinking. So here's where I'm at. I am waiting what is it, June, July, August, September, October. I'm waiting 5 months to make any major decisions in my life. I'm always thinking what's next for me. Even when I started RV Life, I was thinking about what's next for me. When I started YouTube, I was thinking what's next for me. I'm always thinking about what's next for me because nothing's permanent. I mean, I can do whatever I want. And so, and especially now after being on the road a few years, I do think what's next for me? Is this what I'm going to do forever? Do I want property? Do I want to do something else? And so that's definitely been on my mind. But I'm in a holding pattern. I'm waiting 5 months to make any major decisions because of the uncertainty of what's going on in our country right now. I don't feel confident in anything. I don't feel there's too much uncertainty. I don't know about unknown because I'm going to talk about history and historical context in a minute. So I'm not feeling all that comfortable right now about buying property. And here's why. So I gave you a little historical context behind my education. Besides my education, when I traveled to Europe the first time in Budapest, I visited the Museum of Horror. And if nobody's ever been there before, it's interesting and fascinating and heartbreaking and not numbing. What's the word I'm looking for? It's just really stark. It is the history of the occupation of Budapest from Stalinist and Leninist communist Russia and all the things that they did, and then after that they were occupied by Nazi Germany. And so it outlines the history of oppression of fascist dictator governments. So that was one thing that also very much impacts my thinking. But another thing is the concentration camp Dachau in near Berlin. Yeah, no, not Berlin, Munich, near Munich, Germany. I visited that as well. And I spent probably 4 hours walking around there, and I can't even describe if anybody has ever visited a concentration camp. I get emotional now even just thinking about it, just walking through the trails and the roads and the buildings where millions of Jews were executed. It's almost too much for a human, a feeling human, I think, to bear. And Dachau originally was first built for, do you know this? Political prisoners. Not for ethnic cleansing, but for political prisoners. And so those are the two places, because I really got to see the effects of a dictatorship. I got to see the effects of fascism. And, in addition to my studies and my knowledge of my history, it really was real walking through both of those places. So this is what happens under fascist, authoritarian regimes. Lenin, Stalin, Hitler. So here is what happened. They started calling people who disagreed with them enemies of the state. In Lenin or Stalin's case, it was, he was all about, I'm going to spread communism throughout the world. Communism is the way, it's good for the people, it's what's best for the people, and everybody who disagreed with him became an enemy of the people and became imprisoned. More than 1 million political prisoners were executed under Stalin, in the name of doing what's good for the people. So 1 million were, did I say 1 million were imprisoned? 700,000 political enemies, political prisoners were executed simply for disagreeing with the government. So my background has taught me that in history, if you disagree with the government, if you voice opposition to what's going in the government, you can be imprisoned, you can be executed, you can be shipped off to labor camps. In the case of Stalinist and Leninist Russia, they would put them on trains and ship them off to labor camps, sometimes never to be seen again. And this is what happens in authoritarian regimes. And in every single one of these authoritarian regimes, authoritarianism, dictatorships, Hitler, Stalin, and Lenin, how did they get power? How did this happen? And they all call it the cult of personality. That they were they were speaking to something emotional within their following that allowed this to happen. They convinced in Hitler's case, it was ethnic cleansing. We must save the white race. In Stalin and Lenin, they also did some ethnic cleansing, and it was all about, spreading communism, because and I also want to stress, their version of communism and socialism don't have dictators, okay? So it is never, and I have this argument with people sometimes. Again, I studied communism. I read Karl Marx, and what Stalin and Lenin did is not true communism or socialism, because true communism and socialism do not have dictators. Same with capitalism. We have not seen true capitalism. We cannot have a true free market economy when the huge, powerful big businesses with all the money are warping the information that the consumer is getting. A true free market economy allows the consumer to have full information to make decisions so that they can choose who to support, who to buy from, voting with their dollars unaltered. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I'm saying? So a true free market economy, yes, people can choose who they want to support. In a true free market economy in capitalism, the best products and services rise to the top, and those that aren't the best fail. Well, when you have, 1% or 2% of the population owning 98% of the wealth, they can control the media, they can even control science to some extent. We've done the research, and this is what the studies say. We all know that those can be tweaked. We all know that those can be bought. We all know that in some cases data can be manipulated, and unless you have the ability to do critical thinking, and this is what we're seeing right now, if you don't have critical thinking skills, you don't know how to look beyond what the mass, huge, big businesses, and I think we can all agree on this, big business has taken over our country. And so we've never even seen true capitalism. And so if you can admit that we've never seen true capitalism because of the money and the power involved, you might also be able to admit that we've never seen true socialism or communism because money and power and greed got involved. And that's exactly what happened in the case of Russia. So in Russia, with Stalin and Lenin wanting, and this is what they did, the cult of personality. We care about you, but anyone who disagreed with them, in a healthy society, in a healthy relationship, in a healthy anything, respectable, healthy debate is normal. When you take away healthy debate, you have a dictatorship. When you use fear and intimidation as a tool to shut people up, to get people to stop asking questions, to get people to stop disagreeing with you, then you are a dictatorship. When you use false information, when you spread lies, when you gaslight, when you accuse the free press of being biased, of hating you, of being an enemy of the people, you're a dictator, and it's dangerous. And with some of the language that's being floated in our democracy right now, enemy of the people, investigating enemies while pardoning friends, that I might sound paranoid. You can call me paranoid if you want. You can turn this off right now and tell me I'm stupid and I'm full of crap. I don't care. And maybe I am a little paranoid, but I am not feeling comfortable about the future of our democracy right now. And because of my knowledge of history, I have seen through history, through reading, through facts, that what happens a lot of times is political prisoners, those who disagree with the government, get imprisoned, they get shipped off, never to be seen again, they get stripped of property. And so I am not comfortable buying property right now. I know, it might sound a little crazy to some of you, and it might sound paranoid, that's okay, but I am not going to buy property right now for that reason. Sure, I mean, I suppose that, that the average person who owns property isn't going to end up in a political prison should we go further down that route. But I'm also concerned just about armed militias. We've got armed militias. We're seeing them in the streets of the protests. We've got secret police. I don't know that I want to be stuck in one place not knowing what's going to happen in the future of our country as far as armed militias and just secret police and just all the crazy stuff that we're seeing in America that I never thought I would see in America. And so I'm not comfortable. Number one, being stationary right now. I'm not comfortable in thinking that if I own property, I'm going to be able to retain that property if things go crazy. I mean, maybe I'm also a little affected by Handmaid's Tale. How many of you watch Handmaid's Tale? The first thing they did is took away women's credit cards, took away women's money, froze their bank accounts. It can happen. I know that's it's a dystopic show, but 1984 was dystopic too when it was written, and we're seeing that it's becoming almost too real. So I'm not buying property right now. I literally am waiting 5 months to make any major decisions in my life. The other thing I do want to, and this, I'm making this video because this is something that everybody who's planning to live a nomad RV life, or anybody who's out here and you're unsure about your future, I wanted to share my knowledge of history, my thinking, my thoughts about this with you, because I think a lot of people are feeling really uncertain right now, not just the pandemic. I know a lot of people are rushing out to buy property because of the pandemic, but it goes a lot deeper than that, in my opinion. The other side of that coin is, if shit does hit the fan, if we do turn into some crazy, communist Russia, fascist Germany country, which is a very real possibility at this point. That's where we're heading. When we have an attorney general who's doing the dirty deeds of the president and not executing his duty and staying true to the rule of law and the Constitution in this country, we're on a very, very slippery slope. And I'm also not comfortable being a nomad. So I think about that as well. I'm reluctant to buy property because I don't want to be stuck in one place, because who knows what's going to be surrounding me, who knows who's going to be roaming around these armed militias, who knows. So I'm not comfortable with that, but I also have concerns about being a nomad. Am I not going to be able to stay on public lands? Are the public lands going to be taken over by crazy armed militias? Any armed militias out there, I know you probably don't like to be called crazy. I doubt any armed militias watch me, but I wonder about that too. Are we going to lose public lands? Are they going to be swooped up by a fascist dictator regime, and no one's going to be allowed to go on them anymore? It's all going to be sold to private interests or to the government, labor camps, right, or prisons or whatever. So I worry about that too. But here is where I'm at right now. I'm erring on the side of be able to move as needed. That if stuff hits the fan, I am mobile. And one of the things I am thinking about is actually buying a 4-wheel drive truck. I'm thinking that I want to be more mobile. I want to be able to go more places. I want to be able to go deeper off grid if I need to. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about lately, is buying a truck. At first I was thinking just to travel in the summer. It would be nice to, remember that live stream I did with Bob a few months ago, it really got me thinking about camping and how I miss feeling like I'm camping. And so I started thinking that I would buy a 4-wheel drive truck and put a camper shell on it, and just in the summers just go off and be able to go more remote than I can in my RV. But now I'm thinking, as far as survival, that might be something. It'll get me further off grid. I'm very visible in the RV. It's stark white. It's kind of easy to see in the woods. I'm starting to think that if I had a 4-wheel drive truck, number one, I could drive more remote. And I've got my backpacking gear. And I answered a question about a bug out bag. And I'm thinking more seriously about making sure that my backpack is ready to go for survival, and in case stuff hits the fan. But I think that for those of you who are concerned about the future, who are maybe thinking you're on the road now and you're thinking that a piece of property is the way to go, these are my thoughts on that. You're a sitting duck, is kind of how I look at it. If you buy property, you're tied to that property. You're a sitting duck, and worst case scenario, it can get confiscated. And that's not comfortable for me right now. Being able to move, being able to survive, being able to live off the land. Again, we're going prepper here, and I'm going more in that direction. Being able to live off the land, being able to move on foot is where I'm at right now as far as thinking survival. So that's my thoughts on buying property. I know a lot of people are doing it right now. It's just not in the future for me right now. But let's pretend for a minute that I'm not thinking catastrophic United States events. I don't think I'm not ready to get off the road yet. I have been thinking about property, and then I think it through, and I think, what would I do? I'd be bored. So here's where I'm at, for those of you who are wondering. I do get this question a lot. Are you ever going to, not live in your RV? Are you ever going to get off the road? I can never go back to a traditional house. I don't care if it's in a town or a city, definitely not. Even a rural, I was thinking about Alaska, even a house in a very rural area with all the modern conveniences is not what I want to do. That just sounds really boring to me. I would go back to my old, I do it now too much in my RV. I'm actually thinking I want to go more off grid. I don't want internet all the time. I don't want TV all the time, because I don't have the discipline to turn it off and read a book. I only read a book when I'm off grid and don't have internet. I mean, how pathetic is that, right? I would much rather, at the end of the day, just veg out in front of the TV. And most of the time I have an internet signal and I'm able to do that. And I've got books, but I don't do it. It's crazy. I know. I'm trying to have a little bit more discipline. In the mornings now with Sadie, I have a better routine. Maybe I'll show you that in a future day in the life video. Yeah, so for me, for my future, it's either homesteading. It's something where I have to work hard at survival. That's what really is appealing to me right now. If you remember, I decided to live in an RV because what I really wanted to do was take my backpack and just disappear into the woods, and I thought that wasn't reasonable at the time, and so my compromise was living in an RV. Well, my living in an RV for 4 years has not quelled that desire to just have a backpack and go disappear in the woods. It hasn't. In fact, I think it might even be stronger. It's been really strong lately. And I'm kind of back to, I'm going to share something. You never know where the future of my videos are going to go. That's another thing. No matter what I do, I think I want to make videos because I think it'll be interesting, maybe, for those of you who like following what I do. So, okay, so this video actually wasn't as long as I thought it would be. That's where I'm at. I have enough knowledge of history to know that we're on a slippery slope. That when the President of the United States is calling protesters who are exercising their constitutional right to protest, enemies of the state, calling the former president traitor, accusing him of treason without evidence, we're in very scary territory. And I'm not making any decisions until the election. And I don't know what I'm going to do if the election turns out the way many of us fear it will. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do, because we're not going to survive another 4 years. And I know there are people who watch me who disagree with that, who still think that he is helping you and that he has your best interest at heart. He doesn't. I do. I have nothing to gain. I am just a woman living my life. I have no ulterior motives. I don't believe in taking guns away. I am more libertarian probably than many of you who watch me. I don't wear my seatbelt because I don't feel like the state should tell me I have to wear my seatbelt. It's my choice if I want to die. That's a victimless crime in my opinion. So I'm more libertarian. And I'm a liberal, because I believe that I don't believe that the government should tell me what I can and cannot do with my body. That's none of the government's business. I don't believe that in stupid laws just for the sake of having laws. But we do have a huge society that needs to be protected from ourselves sometimes and from each other. And so I'm not telling you that Trump is dangerous because I have any other ulterior motive other than to save us, to save our democracy. I know enough about history to know this has happened before. And the people who turned a blind eye to Hitler, or who shut up, or who supported him, regretted it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. So this is why I'm not buying property right now. Call me crazy. Call me paranoid. I don't care. We're in scary times. We're in really scary times. And I don't know how people can, Yes, this country has problems. Yes, our political process has problems. Yes, every politician is probably corrupt to some extent. But I've never seen anybody try to tear down our democracy the way they are now. And if we don't have our democracy, what do we have? Look at Stalin and Lenin and Hitler, and you'll get your answer. So, how was that for a little campfire chat? If we were sitting around the campfire, we'd be having a dialogue. I'm a little sad that we can't have a dialogue. I even have good, healthy dialogues with people who don't agree with me when face to face. The internet, I think, is what is going to kill civilization, because I don't know what happens to us on the online, but we lose the ability, myself included, myself especially. I stop being kind when people. We all get defensive. I want to try to help people, and then I get defensive and angry, and it's just it's just cesspool of the internet is awful. It really is. Okay. I know. Isn't it insane that in 2020 in the United States of America, what I've talked about in this video are the concerns that I have? It's insane, isn't it? Nobody ever thought. I knew in college. This is one thing, a couple of the things that I've talked about in this video are some of the theories that I developed in my studies in college. And another theory that I developed in college was that our democracy and our capitalist system wasn't going to last, that every great empire falls eventually. And I knew that we would eventually. I just didn't know it would be this fast. And I didn't know it would be like this. So yeah, it's just crazy that in 2020, this is what I have to think about, my life on the road. And I'm sure that a lot of you have a lot of uncertainties too. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will subscribe. I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers, so if you've been on the fence about subscribing, please make sure you subscribe today. Hit the thumbs up. Like I said, I'm going to lose subscribers, so go ahead and subscribe. If you don't mind talking about real things every once in a while. I can't talk about my choices, my decisions, my travels without looking at the bigger picture. And politics and culture and the things that are going on in the country affect even me out here, as I demonstrated in today's video and my thoughts behind buying property. And so if you can resonate with thinking about things, and sure, there's a time and a place for escapism, that's for sure. But I've said before, this is not the channel. If you just want an escape, I think 90% of the time I don't talk about things that matter. 90% of the time it's all about RV living. And if that 10% of the time you can't handle me thinking and philosophizing and sharing, did I say that right? And sharing my thoughts on what's going on in the world and how it affects all of us, but even me living in an RV, if you can't handle that, I understand. Feel free to unsubscribe. You don't need to tell me about it. I've seen comments on other social media platforms. This isn't an airport. There's no need to announce your departure. So I understand. Some people just need to escape, and I totally get that, but that's not who I am. And this is Carolyn's life. Carolyn's life. The RV is just the vehicle, literally. So thank you all. Subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. There's a lot more to come. I bought, my puppy. I bought Sadie, leave it. Thank you. I bought a new thermometer. I had a feeling that wouldn't last long, so that I know that it's been cold in the morning. Oh, look at her. Anyway, say goodbye, Sadie. Anyway, those of you who are still here with me, you're the bomb. I really appreciate you so much. Speak out, speak up. It matters. Don't be one of those people who at the end of the Holocaust regretted not speaking up, okay? Stuff is bad. It's bad. This is not normal. And I'm going to keep speaking up about it when it comes up. And those of you who are still here with me, I appreciate you. I know a lot of you are with me even though you don't agree with me politically. And I commend you, because we've really gotten to a place where we just can't handle different opinions. And it's not healthy to block out, completely 100% block out different opinions. That is not healthy. That's what Stalin did. That's what Lenin did. That's what Hitler did. They blocked out different opinions by killing them, by imprisoning them, by killing them, by executing them. That is not normal. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. Bye.